the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Tonight we have on Nick. Nick is the lead singer and guitarist of Cutting Crew. How are you doing, man?
Hi, Sean. I'm very well, thank you. Yes, after 2 bleak years, things seem to be slowly turning that corner. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here. You were promoting kind of over this year is ransomed, healed, restored, and forgiven, right?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you to add like vaccinated to the end of that list of the title. So we'll hop into the music first before we kind of get sidetracked, as I know I will. What happened? I believe at one point, 2015, you had been talking about the title of this already. You've had this title for a while, right?
Yeah, I think actually this is completely off the cuff. Hang on. Oh, yeah. I didn't actually think I was going to be doing in this room, but look, there you go. This is one of my things I do. There's hundreds of things written on a piece of wallpaper here that over the years that I stick up. They're titles, or maybe not titles, maybe lyrics. And ransomed, healed, restored, forgiven is a line from a hymn. Did you know that?
No.
Praise my soul, the King of heaven, to his feet thy tribute bring. Ransomed, healed, restored, forgiven. And I'm not a Christian or anything, but I always remember that line and thinking, what a cool line one day. So when we started re-recording old material, I thought ransomed, healed, restored, and possibly the fans will forgive me.
Besides redoing your Florida singles, really, is on there, were your big singles, right? The orchestra, it just makes especially, Die in Your Arms, even a bigger, lusher sound, Yeah.
It's a gorgeous orchestra. It's in Prague and Slovenia. We did it, two different orchestras. Sometimes we got both orchestras to play the same part. We put them together as well. Something I'd never done before. And honestly, without getting, sloppy here, but, putting the headphones on and singing to an orchestra is, a lifetime's dream. And it was very emotional on some of those big ballads. You just, almost the lyrics just meaning something else after all these years. But thank you. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. We certainly got a beautiful arranger in. He said, look, do you want to be involved in the arrangements? And I said, well, I can read music, but I can't write charts. But if you want to involve me. So he said, why don't you tell me song by song your ideas of tone? And I said, no, I can do better than that because I know my classical music really well. I'll tell you the composer or a piece that maybe it could be a little bit like. So Climb Aboard is, I think, a little bit Mendelssohn, and there's some Rachmaninoff in there as well. So I really enjoyed the whole process.
What it's really interesting is I think, and you said you guys considered yourselves more of a rock band early on with the guitars, because you had really rocking guitars, but you guys had that synthier sound too. So I think that kind of like pushed you into the pop area because you had really rocking guitars. I think to me, you guys sounded more like more like Yes in the 80s too. Really strong guitar melodies, but the keyboards are in there too.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah, I find that to be a challenge to find an audience besides just the balladeers.
Absolutely. As the time's gone by, we've got rockier. I mean, it's absolutely a rock band now. I mean, it rocks. Back then, the marketing on the band was quite pop, especially in Britain, the way that we were sold, excuse me. But I think it's been one of the biggest invisible problems that Cutting Crew's always had, and that is, what are they? Are they Canadian? Are they British? Because there's a Canadian guitarist. Is it pop? Some of those early songs were quite fluffy. And then we go on stage and play and people, oh, well, what is this? So it's kind of worked against us, but in another way, we've got fans all over the world. So it kind of, it was a big net that was cast.
Right. It's not a bad thing by any means, but I mean, because you were still talking today. You wrote a song that everybody knows. That's insane. To imagine how big that is. I mean, so to that point, but like as we go through your albums, if you listen to them, broadcast, it's the Scattering, and then Compass, but then Grinning Souls kind of starts changing, and Add to Favorites feels like there's R&B in there.
Yeah,
like that feels like a real change.
Totally. Grinning Souls was on the way to change. That was when Kevin, my true friend and guitarist, had died. Yeah. So I was living in the Caribbean then. Well, it sounds very posh, doesn't it? And it was just right. I went up and stayed with him for the last sort of 6 months of his life. And whilst I was there, I met all these young, great musicians, Halifax, Nova Scotia. You want to go and see some great players, you know, you get a fiddle band, you get a rock band, you get a Motown band, you know, wonderful melting pot of music. So I kind of thought, these guys are really cool. So I went back up after Kevin had died and made that album. It was an angry, scruffy, you know, kind of, I don't care what really happens with the album, you know, maybe I had to get it out of me. But Add to Favorites absolutely was the first time really when I didn't have a record deal and I could, you know, self-financed. And I'm not suggesting that A&R men and record companies tie you down, but there's certainly a lot of editing.
You don't have to say that. I'll say that. They do.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of editing, you know, so why would you want to put that song on? So I had complete control. And as it says, Add to Favorites, it's me tipping my hat to some Otis Redding in there with the brass, with Jackson Brown, even Warren Zevon in one of the songs. You know, I loved it. I had a great time. But yeah, well spotted. Lots of new girl singers for the first time ever.
That's why it's interesting to hear that. And then this one has the orchestra is totally different. Like I think it would be more of a continuation. And to me, Grinning Souls feels like more of it's like a healing album for you. You're working through some stuff. It's very cathartic. You know, it's a moving forward point for you. And that's what you got your new guitarist too that you have now, right? Gareth?
Gareth, yeah.
Gareth, sorry. So that's kind of feels like that was kind of the beginning of that process for you.
It was. That was, you know, you sometimes you sort of take me into a nice area that I haven't thought about for a long time. And that is when Kevin died, you know, it's all about losing your friend, you know. Just so happens he played guitar in Cutting Crew.
And he was awesome.
That was the end of that era, totally. You know, there was no point. I couldn't see any reason. I remember speaking to his daughters and saying, like, I'm going to put the Grinning Souls album. I actually did release it under the name of another band. So when he died, you know, that was absolutely, didn't think twice about ever being Cutting Crew again. And we actually released the Grinning Souls album as by a band called Grinning Souls, and the album was called Capture. There are only about 100 of them ever made, you know, very rare. But I think my point is that, you know, so you never think you'll meet another person that can do that. And I met Gareth. He was playing with a guy called Jim Diamond, who's an English pop star. PhD was his band. And I just saw him playing, and I thought, I poached him literally. I said, please come and, you know, just come and join. And when he sat down with guitars like this, we would be playing like, and within 10 seconds he was playing exactly, you know, he'd spotted my feel. And so I'll never say he's my new Kevin, but he's my best friend and he's a bloody great guitarist.
Well, that's good. You know, you guys have taken the video, because I like there's the Never Fall in Love, the German video. I guess they put a piece together. It's you and Kevin, like on a train or something. It's like the best bromance video, because they're singing about love and it's like you guys together. I'm like, oh. But it's really actually nice knowing the history of you guys. It's really kind of a nice thing looking back to see that moment.
Yeah, very natural. He was older than me, and he came into my life about a year before my dad died. So it was like an old, he wasn't never a father figure, but he had a lot of wisdom. He had a lot of
old soul.
Issues. Yeah, he had a lot of issues, dear God. But he was also wise, and so you know, the way life goes like that. Yeah.
That's really funny. I like that. So while we're talking here, what happened? It's out there, and it says Between Broadcast and the Scattering, which is a really good album. I know that's one of your favorite songs. I actually put that up in there, one of my favorite ones with you also. The time difference, what was dragging behind? I've read different spots, like, you know, you guys are having problems with management, or they're being slow when you between the albums. Because I mean, labels know that, they know better. They know they got to hit when it was hot. You guys were hot, and you know, I'm surprised they didn't have you making a new album while the singles were out.
Yeah, it killed us. It killed us absolutely. That 1 year. I mean, we got the album that, you know, the Scattering album was ready within a year. Yeah, and some lovely songs on it, and it was a progression. The band wanted to be involved a bit more. Kevin was starting to write, And we hit that naming no names. We hit that heavy hitting American record company execs who just said, it's really good, you know, but just, you know, not really hearing that Died in Your Arms. And I'd be like, you know, please don't do that one on me, you know. And that thing, young musicians who are watching this, you know, don't think that suddenly you get all this power just because you've had a massive hit. There's still these big guys that run the record businesses. So so they'd send us away and we'd sit and write another song. In fact, Rock in a Hard Place is a send up of Died in Your Arms. The opening riff is the cello line from Died in Your Arms backwards. And the record company didn't even get it. And they said, this is great. We'll release it as the first single.
It's painful.
So we lost a lot. We lost a lot of ground. Yeah, we
lost the momentum. I mean, the band was growing, but then the publicity you lost, because '89, as it was, the '80s were, I think, were one of the best times for music, because you have a lot of different artists on the radio. You could have, you know, like Prince, Cyndi Lauper, you guys, Duran Duran, you know, Colin Hay, but all different types of pop music, I guess, for lack of a better word. But it was all very different. It's not like you hear a lot of the same. It was varied. And once the 90s, 89, 90 started coming, music changed. Like it wiped out like hard rock, but even changed for pop music. Pop music kind of got into that whole 2/4 programmed, you know, voiceover, you know, thing where you're not even singing anymore. They're just auto-tuning you. And you were right in the cusp of that. That's getting released right when that kind of music was starting to come out.
Yeah, you describe it well. I mean, there's two things happened, and that is just about at the end of the 80s when we were releasing that album, and many other 80s bands. You know, music changed. Dance music was coming in. You know, I was sitting in the offices in Bel Air in LA, you know, at Virgin.
Now you're being posh.
Yeah. And they just signed Janet Jackson, you know. So, and these wonderful bands in Britain, bands like Soul to Soul and Nina Cherry, great, you know, great urban acts coming. I could see it, you know. We're standing there with our big jackets and big hair. You know, it was tricky times. But also, you do make the point about the song. Why I think the 80s is a special decade. I'm not sure it's my favorite decade, but dance music and programming and groove hadn't really become part of the scene. You know, as you know, where you can play like a skippity for the whole group. So you had to write songs, you had to write tunes, you had to write big melodies. So Crowded House were doing it, we were doing it, as you say, Colin Hay was doing it, but all in a different take. And so that's why it's so immensely interesting. Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, it's not like, you know, I'm 51 to be like, oh, you know, the 80s is the best time. It's not like, you know, when you go back to like the 70s or the 60s, the Big Bopper, like all that kind of stuff as a favorite of your age period. I really think from the 80s back, it's more, the songwriting really has changed at the end of the 80s. Just overall, there's great songs in the 70s and 60s. Songwriting has changed. And I saw a thing, I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube. There, some vocalist, he keeps saying he's not putting you down, but he's comparing, he breaks down like vocal isolation of you singing. Have you seen this?
Yes, can't remember his name, but recently they did me. Whoa.
Yeah, so I don't watch him. That's the one I saw. And he was being okay about it, but it was interesting because one of the things that he brought up, and I think it was something with the vocals, and I think it was something with the background vocals in you, and that was like, he thought it was a little off. And to me, I actually thought, I like a little dissonance in it. I actually think it works better. I didn't think it was off. I think it made sense that it was like that on purpose.
Yeah,
you know, and I liked that live feeling. I liked the way the voices worked and the difference, and they weren't, you know, I actually disagree with his breakdown of that because of that. You know, it's not because I'm talking, it's just live sounds better.
Yeah, you got to have some feel, you know, not everything has to fit and be lined up. And I know he wasn't getting it perfect, but yeah. In fact, I'll tell you a true story about that recording of that lead vocal for I Just Died in Your Arms. We were in Air Studios, George Martin's studios in Oxford Street in London, and which was pretty amazing because we hadn't even had a hit record. You know, we told you that, hi George, you know, all this kind of stuff. We were little nobodies. And my girlfriend was 8.5 months pregnant at that time, and she's standing outside the vocal booth going like this, you know, we got to get back, because we lived 30, 40 miles from London. And I remember doing the vocal, going, okay, all right, just let
If
me have
only
another
you now
two.
you could be like, oh, excuse me, right? One of the biggest songs ever going to be. You need to wait one more minute.
Exactly. And Terry Brown, who produced it, you know, the wonderful best
Oh, he's
friend.
fantastic. Yeah, he's fantastic. The work he's
He'll
done.
back me up on that story because I remember him saying, like, you know, Andrea, please.
He did a good job, and that was the thing. Like, you can talk about the difference in the singing in that song, and or it's also the album, the live effect. There are different things you can pull that about, but you can do it with all the albums. The album still sounds. You don't hear the difference of things. It's totally mixed, perfect. You wouldn't even heard it unless it was isolated. But when you can isolate, you can hear those things. Then do a mix and make everything work. It even says so much more for it, you know.
Well, Terry's mastery is he's an engineer, so you know I never got involved in any of that. My God, the hours he spent on that effing drum kit, you know, just drove us all mad. But it sounds fantastic. I'm sure he did the same with Neil Peart, you know. But as soon as it gets into the realm of the song and the arrangement, you know, he's not didactic. He'll sit and listen. Everybody chipped in. Probably Kevin and I had more to say than the other two lads who were wonderful on it. But he has that ensemble thing, and you know, that's how I think it sounded so good, but it still sounds fresh. I think also, if you want, you know, if you are interested, because it's got the guitar, it's mostly a guitar band. That's why I think we've stuck around longer than others. It does have synth in there, but even those they're not. Again, I'm not saying like Howard Jones or Human League, who are bigger than Cutting Crew, but they've got that 80s synthy thing, you know, whereas we on American radio, I think, have many, many more legs because of the guitar edge. I think that's true.
It does have, it almost feels like it's a progressive guitar sound and effect that was used on it back then. It was very, like it's always said yes, you know, very Trevor Rabin. You know, it's got that some of the effects in it. There's a certain sound back then. So that mixed with the keyboard in that one song, you know, kind of.
Well, you're obviously a guitarist, Sean. I mean, do you know what he played mostly? It was a Roland guitar synth was his main guitar, and it was a beautiful Stratocaster. He barely used the synth sound. It was just that gorgeous Roland Strat through whatever pedals he had. Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah, that's awesome. Actually, take a side step there. You're a nice guitar player yourself. There, you played. What's your favorite type of guitar there? What do you got going on there? I know you've played Fender. You play a lot of different guitars, but
I've got a Taylor 12 string, and yeah, Taylor sent me quite a lot of stuff, which is lovely. I normally would on stage play acoustic.
I've seen like a slimmed down Fender, like a half. That was really
what do you got here? This one. Oh, that's an old Telly. That's a Telly.
Yep, no, that's awesome.
I'll tell you what I really like is this one. It's only a Squire, but it's a beautiful guitar. Coming back. Can you see that one?
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's just a, you know, it's a Fender, but it's just gorgeous. Something about the F-hole just makes it sustain. Anyway, I'm a rhythm guitarist. I couldn't play lead guitar to save my life.
No, but you do a lot of picking with your fingers, though. I don't usually always see you play with a pick. You do your fingers a lot. You know.
Yeah.
So you do your own lead playing, because to carry a song and be picking at different times and picking out the song.
Yeah. So it's half picking, half strumming, and with the flamenco, you know, thumb on the top.
Yeah.
That's how I was taught.
I find myself watching you play guitar when I see you singing live in the video. I'm watching your hands on the guitar. Yeah. It's very enjoyable. So yeah, I wouldn't cut yourself down too slow as a rhythm guitarist. Because there's some beautiful string gauges. What do you use it for string gauges on your acoustic?
Oh gosh, it's okay. Now you've got me 11.
Yeah.
16. 21, 36, 46, 56.
Okay, cool. I love to ask that question because you always hear the craziest things, or somebody has only like, I've heard I only use 5 strings. I don't even use, you know, whatever. Or I use or like, you know, I've had people do pop stars and they're thick, like, you know, like Stevie Ray Vaughan thick on their strings, and they have like, you know, ballads. So it's always fun to hear how that sound, you know, But they like
tell
to
you what I
use.
do. Tell you what I do a lot, which you may have spotted in. Think about broadcasts. So the song Sahara, and on Add to Favorites, there's a song called Saint Ferien, and it's no black magic going on here, folks. But I love it because in my previous band, the Drivers, they were a three-piece, and you had to have all kinds of tricks to kind of keep it interesting or fill the
Fill it
sound. So open E tuning. So this is an E.
Yeah.
And I use that a lot for writing. So Sahara. Anyway, we don't want to get that. But that for anybody that wants to have a different take and write a song in a second, tune it to open E, and you got that.
Well, also the untrained ear, people don't catch the difference or realize the nuances of it. It just sounds full. You're filling the space with something that's in tune, and there's a melody. People are like, okay,
Yeah. They probably don't know and don't care, but I just know that for writing, it's so hard. I've been writing I'm 63 now, so I've been writing for too long, some people will say. And you run out of tricks, so just things like that. Sometimes I even detune it completely chaotic and put my fingers down and go, oh my God, that's the best chord ever invented, completely unplayable.
You gotta look up what it's called actually. As songwriting, so are you just writing come up with the music, or I know you get the lyrics on the wall, but are you do like a melody, or how does it come to you?
Yeah, never ever do I sit down and say, I saw a dreadful story about a kid in Morocco. I'm going to write a song about it. I can't do that. It's all about hard work and phonetics out of the mouth and putting your hands down. I wrote mostly on piano now anyway, but happy accidents and so they see that you are, just be brave enough to make sounds and then listen to it back, and then you go, hang on, they said, that's how it'll start. Then you've got the craft of being a songwriter. You think, what the heck are you singing about? What is this? And then you unpick it. But very rarely do I sit down with a project. Titles are always good. If we go back to that bit of paper, it's what I love it. And then if they're stuck up on the wall, so we've got, what do we got here? No Time Wasters. I'd love to dance, but my feet won't let me. When push comes to shove, walk right back into the combat zone. Oh, I love this one. No stilettos, no stereo. That's an advert when people, they don't want to, when you're renting a flat and they say no stilettos, no stereo.
That's funny. Those are great. Looks like my old book covers in school. I used to cover my book and write things all over them. It's all weathered looking.
Yeah, and
so you got it's got all kinds of things. So go back. So with this newest release, with Ransom Healed, Restored and Forgiven, besides having the You Just Died, you also do Everything But My Pride. You do Been in Love, and you also do
One for the Mockingbird.
Mockingbird. Yeah, Mockingbird. It escaped me for a minute there, and then other songs. It's like giving them a second shot, some of them too. I think Mockingbird didn't really get a full chance out there. Hopefully more ears will hear it now, because I think that was where you were struggling. I think the audience was kind of waning on you, I don't think you guys had to support these labels, what it was.
Yeah, no, it didn't take long. We had a very brief, we went around the world 3 times, it was whirlwind, but it didn't take long. No, I think the new album is, we've spoken about the orchestra. There are 2 new songs on that. Well, one song from Grinning Souls called No Problem Child, which is
that was pretty interesting to put on there.
Yeah, I wanted that to happen. That's my favorite song to sing live. Absolutely, very from the heart. But a brand new song called Climb Aboard, which is very current, and it's about I live right down on the south coast of England, so 50 miles south of London, right on the seaside. And that's where all these poor sods, these migrant people in the boats are coming over from France. and drowning, babies drowning in the sea. It's shocking, you know, a real human misery. And that's just 10 miles from where I live. So Climb Aboard is a kind of ironic take on that, where, you know, climb aboard, come on, you know, the smugglers, everything's going to be fine, come on, it's a new hope. And then, of course, they're on the boat and they realize that it isn't. So we're singing that on an upcoming tour in about 5 weeks' time. And I can't wait to sing that one. Can't wait to sing it.
That's awesome. So what have you been doing during this downtime in this COVID? Because kind of trying to keep the album going and live.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't, you know, I've been doing it so long. I didn't struggle with the kind of like, oh God, I need to gig. I've got to get back out there, like many others did. And I absolutely respect that. I was speaking to a German fan last night, and she's one of these girls, and she won't mind me saying this, you know, she's not got a boyfriend. All her friends are gig people, you know, and not round the corner, but from other parts of Germany. So the only time she really sees her friends is at gigs. And she's just, you know, still everybody's still canceling. The American bands aren't coming over yet. And she's really, really distraught, you know. She has no life at all because the music isn't there. Now, I am one of the lucky people on the other side that, you know, I got my studio, I'm married, I got a daughter, and, you know, nice people in the area. So I haven't had it tough. But what I did pledge to myself was to not just sit around and get fat. So I've got this. It was great. I'll give Kate Meehan a plug. She's a beautiful journalist from the States, and me and Steve Lukather and Jeffrey Martinez from Suave, and Eric from the Hooters, Pilsen from Foreigner. We all wrote like a short story of minds about me meeting me as a youngster in a pub and going, come on then. So that was nice to write. I sang on a on a Animals by Pink Floyd. Cleopatra Records put out a revisited version. So you've got all these heavy proggers, Al Di Meola, Billy Cobham, Martin from Jethro Tull. He and I did Pigs on the Wing. So that was great. That kept me busy for a while. What else? And then one of the, just because I can, I do this podcast with a dear friend who's a proper bona fide classical composer. You know, he's like very angular modern classical writing, yeah. But he loves my melodies, so we combine and we're writing all kinds of things. And it's maybe just for fun, but one little gem has come out, and maybe I can send it to you, and you might be able to force it into the show or whatever.
Yeah,
it's Mio Fiore, and it's like a Puccini aria, absolutely beautiful. And one quick story on it is this: that I wrote the lyrics for it when my daughter's mum and I split up, and I read them to Kevin, and he was like, "Man, you can't sing those, man. They're too harsh. You know, that's too much, too raw." So I sat on it, and it became Lauren's theme, which is the orchestral piece at the end of Grinning. And then Nigel and I got together, and he said, "You know, we really should try and put some a tune, a song to it." So we got out the words again, and he said, "It can't be in English. We have to do it in Italian." So we flew in my best friend Sandrina Sedona from Italy. She came in, and I gave her the English words, and of course, the Italian words are so much longer that nothing fitted. So it was hilarious. Anyway, we ended up with Mio Fiore, and I'll send it to you. Yeah, I'm very proud.
So the last two things I want to ask, and actually it's a combined question. You have a song, Berlin in Winter, and then Frigid as England. Kind of feels like they tie together sort of too. It can theme sort of like by titles. Kind of like a play on each other, isn't it? It feels like at least some kind of loose threading.
No, but I like what you said.
it just sticks out in my mind. Like I literally hear wow, it feels like you're kind of.
I never thought of that. And I like it a lot. I will work on that. Maybe we can put them back to back
Yeah.
Berlin in Winter is
Your closet weatherman is what really is.
Berlin in Winter is a really nice story, Sean. The cutting crew were playing in Aberdeen, up in the north of Scotland, in November 1989. And Kevin and I were getting ready to go to the gig, you know, just sitting around, cigarettes and beer. And we saw on television the Berlin Wall fall. It was that first night. We all remember seeing it, you know, the kids running through, and you know, I'm getting quite tearful now thinking about it. One of the, in European history anyway, in the last 50 years, one of the biggest moments. And we were playing in Berlin 3 days later. You couldn't make it up. So we were playing in Berlin.
Wow.
Had a hit record. We had a sold out huge club. And this is a true story. We get there and 20 people came to the show. Nobody wanted to come to a cutting crew gig. You know, they're all down at the wall. So we we invited all 20 people up onto the stage, and some guys were playing drums and singing, and we did about 6 songs, and that was it. We just, song is about, it's a fantasy song about a man who during his teenage years would have been, you know, sequestered, ordered by the communist regime to build the wall. Then he lived through all those horrible atrocities, you know, the shootings of people trying to escape.
Right.
But he was there that night when it fell.
That's a good story. It's very visual, and that's why I thought it was going too. It draws a lot to the scene with the title and everything. It just feels like it's powerful.
Yeah, I'm going to put those two together from now on, and I should credit.
I did.
It's the only song ever that we didn't write. We were working on the Compass Mentis album, which was the album. This is kind of what the story is about. We made the 3rd album. It was a super album, and we sat there listening playback, and there was like a knock on the studio door, and these guys came in with the classic sort of accountants look. Hello, don't mind us. We're just going through a few things, and they were making notes and all this. And we delivered the album, I think, a week later, and got dumped, you know, that night, along with 250 other bands that day.
Wow.
All of the MI, Virgin, you know, it was like the night of the long knives, because things were changing. Companies were being bought by bigger companies all the time. I'm not bitter about that. I don't mind. But that song was the song that I thought would have been our big, you know, we've been around, we went away, we'll come back. I always thought that was a big hit record. And we didn't write it. Chris, our producer, Chris Neal, found it. And that just shows you how we moved on, me and Kevin. You know, we normally would be like, we write our songs, you know, but this gorgeous little funny demo, scruffy, you could barely hear the tune, written by Jeff Lowe. And Kevin just said, leave me alone. I don't want you to come near me. I love this song. So he arranged all the piano, all the different changes and everything. And I wasn't allowed to hear it until the day I sang it. And we've never worked like that.
I think because, you know, Berlin was one, but Frigid was added to it. I'm like, wait. And I feel like they were just a theme right there, because I'd never put them together either, except for this. I was like, oh, wow. It's kind of a good thing. You need to do a 3rd in your trilogy and kind of wrap it all together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where do you live?
I was in Connecticut. You should do. You were over the Caribbean. You need to like a summer in the Caribbean story. That's what you need to do. You end with a nice warm story.
Grinning Souls, the actual title track of Grinning Souls is about Barbados when we live there. So yeah.
Oh, see.
So that's the 3. So we've
that's
got
the tie.
Berlin in Winter, Grinning Souls, and Frigid as England. I like it.
I could actually just change it and make it. I'm in New England, in Connecticut. I can see Frigid as New England, and we got all the snow and ice here too. So, you know,
great. Beautiful part of the world.
Beautiful. It's very nice. This has been fun. I want to thank you for coming on. I want to have everybody check out your stuff. The links will be below, and they can click on them and check out all your stuff. Got any
Thank you.
tips or anything going on besides your tour coming out?
Yeah, we've got the obviously for British fans only. Well, hey, I don't know if Americans can fly in yet or not. I've got so confused with the travel regulations, but we've got 4 shows with Go West, a wonderful 80s band. That's what I've been doing all day, is checking out, we've got it here, checking out charts and pretending I know what I'm doing. Sitting, you know, the guitarist Gareth is saying, so in bar 53, and I'm like, So pretty stressful.
You're gonna need a light and an iPad to kind of thumb through it while you're
Yes.
playing.
Of course
Right.
you are, yeah. Great to
So,
meet
yeah.
you, Sean, and thank you.